Okay, so apparently you can't pause a video, you just have to stop the video and start another one. So this will be video 2 when you get ready to look at them. All right, so we have A, B, A, B. This is what we call rhyme scheme. Now, not all poems rhyme. In fact, there are some really awesome poems out there that don't rhyme at all. But this one does. It has a lot of structure and it rhymes. And I personally am of the thought that poems should rhyme and they should have structure because that's what makes it poetry. But that's just my opinion. Okay, so now we look at the next one. Okay, so now we have the word fair. Fair does not rhyme with any of these, so we give it a new letter, C. Then we have claim, which doesn't rhyme with any of these, so we give it D. And then we have where, which rhymes with fair, so that's a C. And then there is a C. And then same rhymes with claim, so that's a D. That's like a P, but that's actually a D. Okay, so then we have C, D, C, C, D. So you can see the pattern, A, B, A, B, C, D, C, C, D. So then what about this one? Look at it and see if you can figure it out yourself without me saying anything. Good, I know you got that. Okay, so lay is going to be E, black, F, day, E, way, E, and then back, F. Okay, then we start with this last one. We have sigh, which doesn't rhyme with anything so far, so that's G, hence, H, I, that rhymes with the sigh, so that's G, G, and H. Okay, so that's your rhyme scheme. If I asked you to tell me the rhyme scheme of a poem, that's what I'm looking for. Also, you can think about the way that the words follow a pattern. 2 roads diverged from yellow wood, and sorry I could not travel both. And be one traveler long I stood. It does have a rhythm. It's not a real hard rhythm. I think it changes a little bit down here. But this poem is not important so much because of its rhyme or because of its rhythm or because of its meter. It is important because of the meaning. Now, most people, if they look at this poem, they think, oh, I know what that poem's about. That is about somebody that's going into the woods. They see these 2 paths, and one of them looks like it's a little worse than the other, and the other one looks like it would be easier, but they take the hard path, and it made all the difference in their life. That is not what this poem is about. In fact, this poem is not about 2 roads at all. Of course, it's all metaphorical and symbolic. These roads represent different paths that someone can take in life, but here's how you can tell that one of the paths was not any different than the other. Look at what it says. It says, long I stood and looked down one as far as I could to where it bent in the undergrowth. Then I took the other as just as fair. So one path was just as fair or as good as the other one. And so we know here that the paths are the same. They don't look any different from each other. It says, and having perhaps the better claim. So he doesn't know for sure because it was grassy and wanted wear. And then he says, though, as for that, the passing there had warned them really about the same. So he's looking at these 2 paths and he thinks, well, one of them might look a little better, but really they look like they've been traveled on about the same. There's nothing to make one look any better or worse than another. So again, he says in this top line, and both that morning equally lay. They're equal. He has equalized the 2 paths. There's nothing different about them. And leaves no step had trodden black. That means no one has walked on them that day or that morning. And so he says, so I just kept the first. I just held that back in my mind. And I thought, well, I might come back to that one another time. But really, realistically, knowing that way leads on to way, he doubts he'll ever really come back. It's something that might be nice to go back and try the other path, but it's probably not going to happen. So then he jumps to the future and he's like, one day I'm going to look back and I'm going to think about that choice I had to make. And I was looking at those 2 paths. And so when I look back, I'm going to talk about it, that two woods diverged in a wood and I took the one less traveled by, and that made all the difference. But that is not the truth. The truth is that he took one and they both looked the same, and he didn't know which one was better, and he just picked one. And guess what? It made all the difference. What if he'd picked the other one? It would have made all the difference, because every choice you make makes a difference in your life. This isn't to say that you should not worry about your choices, but it just means that sometimes when you look back on your life, you can't see what the choice did for you. You can't see what you saw at the time, but later looking back, you might be able to see a difference. And so that's kind of what this is about. It's that in retrospect, hindsight is 20/20. And when you look back, you might be able to see a difference, and you might not. And sometimes you lie to yourself too. Sometimes you don't realize that they really were pretty much the same. Should I go to ASU or should I go to UCA? Well, it can make all the difference, but sometimes they both look about the same. So that's what this poem is about. People like to take this poem and put it in sermons. Preachers preach about it all the time, about how, you have to take the narrow path. And I think that in a church setting, there's a lot of truth to talk about, what kind of path you need to take in your life. But that's not what this poem is about. This poem should never be used in a sermon or a church service, because it's really about how both paths look the same and you can't really tell. So that's what the poem is about. It is a highly misunderstood poem, and I hope that this will help you as you try to understand it and as you work on memorizing it. You have until next week. Today is Monday the 6th, and you have until next week on Tuesday to have it memorized. So get cracking.